A summer of change is on the horizon at Ibrox. Will Rangers be able to challenge for the title next season? Hello, I'm Andy Burke and this is the Scottish Football Podcast. All the news, views and analysis you need on Tuesday the 19th of May. Rangers chairman Andrew Kavanagh says a summer of substantial change will happen at Ibrox after the failings of this season. But what needs overhauled and why?
This season has been incredibly frustrating and disappointing season for the club, for the supporters. Success for Rangers is winning a title, and we didn't succeed.
Leaders departing and a host of new players needed. Will Rangers be able to compete on all fronts next season? And is there a creeping worry amongst the fans that the recruitment simply isn't good enough?
Yeah, we saw that we were in some moments close to be competitive to win the league, and finally we are 4 defeats away from this, and this is what we have to change. That means we have to change something, I think, on and off the pitch, and this is what we will prepare and will go straight forward.
Danny Rohl has been linked with jobs on the continent. Should Rangers stick or twist with their head coach?
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
Right, great to have your company this morning. Great also to be joined by John Walker, coach and analyst. John, how are you getting on today?
All good. Good morning.
And we also have Cammy Bell, former Rangers goalkeeper. Cammy, how are you getting on?
I'm good, Andy.
Right, chaps, let's dive right in. And of course, BBC Scotland's chief sports writer Tom English sat down with Andrew Kavanagh just last week, and the Rangers chairman promising a summer of substantial change, but already between 30 and 40 million spent this season, and it's not quite panned out. Cammy, should the Rangers fans be concerned that we are once again in a position where we're talking about yet another summer rebuild?
Yeah, I think they'll be slightly concerned. But again, with the product that's been on the pitch, the results that have been given this season, they'll probably be demanding change as well. It's whether you can get that change right. So far, it's been unsuccessful for the new regime that's taken over. Andrew Kavanagh and the rest of the 49er enterprise that have taken over, they've obviously got it wrong with Russell Martin, the first appointment that they made, big appointment at the club. They got that wrong. They had to change that very, very quickly, which disrupted everything this season and got them off to a really bad start. So, yeah, I think the fans will be concerned because ultimately the big change last summer, it didn't go well. They didn't get it right. They need to get right this summer. They need to get their transfers right. If they're sticking with the manager, they need to make sure they back him, and he needs to make sure he gets the right players in because they need to start the season really, really well.
Yeah, and as we know, John, football fans generally are a pretty impatient bunch. I think the Rangers fans in particular are very demanding of success. And when the takeover was completed, I think a lot of fans hoped that things would turn around pretty quickly. It hasn't quite happened like that. Do you see this season as part of a trend? Is it a blip? Do you think the 49ers have got a bit of time on their side to get this right, or do you go along with what Cammy says? This is an absolutely crucial summer to show what they're all about.
Yeah, I think Cammy's pretty much nailed it. I mean, I was a big advocate for Russell Martin appointment and Rangers going to a more sporting direct and modern model, but I don't think that'll work at Rangers. I think if you look at what Hearts did, I think realistically, new ownership, you should just employ a manager that, I hate to say this term, but knows the league, is a bit more experienced, understands Rangers. I think probably the man that ended up in Hearts dugout is probably the one we should have approached for a safer transition. Brighton did the same with like Chris Hughton when Jamestown were kind of taking over and taking the full reins. I think that was probably the safer model. I think Danny Rohl probably represented a bit more of what the pragmatic approach would have been if we'd done that earlier on. So I understand Andrew Kavanagh, but backing him as such, because I think that is the case. I think they probably look at Danny Rohl behind the scenes more as the type of person they wanted in charge of their club in the moment. It's going to be a transition for 3 years till this ownership group gets it nailed on. We've seen that at Leeds, and now they've got a pretty good successful model running at Leeds. So I think, like you said, we are very impatient, but as long as we can see something, we'll probably be good. But like you said, Rangers draw that opening game of the season. everyone's got their pitchforks again.
Well, it's certainly not just a Danny Rohl issue, Cammy. I was having a look at Rangers' points tallies for the last 4 seasons. 92, 85, 75, and now this season 72. So the trend is going in the wrong direction. So this isn't just a recent problem. This isn't just a Danny Rohl problem. Rangers have had an issue in the longer term in terms of building a culture that will deliver consistent success.
Yeah, and again, we can measure that by winning trophies. And again, that's what Rangers is built on, is winning trophies. They've not won enough in recent history, and that's why the fans are frustrated at the moment. They got the new ownership who came in and willing to spend a lot of money, but you've got to spend your money wise. You've got to spend it in the right areas. It's not happened so far. Hopefully they've learnt from their mistakes that they've made, and they'll make better decisions going forward, because it's a different club from other clubs, and I know they've got Leeds United, and I know we'll always look over to them and their model, but Rangers is completely different. Up in Scotland, I think we are completely different from any English team, and I think that the ownership are starting to understand that as well. But yeah, listen, the points tally has been on a huge decline over the past seasons. Again, 20 wins this season is not going to win you a title, is not good enough in the league. So there's got to be big change. We know there's going to be changes within the dressing room. Whether he makes any changes within his backroom staff, we'll soon see. But yeah, listen, the culture has to change, because we've got to get back to a winning culture and winning trophies.
Andrew Kavanagh says, we've got good players, John, but we've not yet got a good team. What have you made of the recruitment since the takeover? And do you think there's confidence amongst the Rangers fans around the recruitment side of thing if they are going into yet another summer where there'll be a fair few arrivals and departures?
Yeah, I don't think anyone would say the recruitment was nailed on. I think what's happened is there's a couple of categories within the recruitment. There's players who have came good. Fernandes and Chermiti have started to show that they were probably worth the money we paid for, and they're going to have sell-on value, which is what the 49ers want to represent the Rangers. We don't. We want people that win us trophies. But at least if you're turning over the money, you probably give yourself the funds without Champions League money to go and rebuild. Then there's other players, like there's a player in there. There's no time at Rangers for Tello Asgard to be a player in there. You need to be performing, at least if it was like 1 in 2, 1 in 3 games, but it's moments, and 1 in every 4 games you see, oh, he's technically good, he gets good positions, but you're like, yeah, but for his position, you want 20 goal involvements, you want more and more chances created. And then there's the players that just haven't worked. Unfortunately, the best one it's been is the loaner Mikey Moore, who we're probably not going to get back. Tour Romans, although early, is the term you probably use with Tour Romans is he looks like a Rangers fullback. He looks like David Roberts and Arthur Newman, somebody that gets up and down the line. So he's probably the one that I think every Rangers fan would go, Tour Romans came in, looked at a Rangers player, has performed like a Rangers player, and will continue to hopefully be that. But then it's like, Raskin has a good World Cup, he's gone. Diomande gets a decent bid, he's probably gone. Then you're left with no midfield left, and it's, where do we go now? So there is definitely a rebuild happening, because we could also have our 2 best signings that turned out in Fernandes and Chermiti being sold as well. So it'll be very interesting to see what we're left with on the positives.
And what, John, would Kevin Thelwell be saying if Chermiti goes for big money? He was a big advocate of him, was happy to pay the money, and a lot of fans for a long time were thinking, what on earth have we bought here? But as you say, now he looks like a sellable asset.
I think out of those 3, Stuart, Thelwell and Russell Martin that were at that press conference on the 1st of June, I think out of those 3, he's probably the one that's getting the best edit down the line. I think Rangers fans can actually see what he was at least trying to recruit and the types of players he did.
Cammy, John mentioned Mikey Moore, who has been a kind of shining light in an otherwise underwhelming season for Rangers. I don't know if you caught his press conference last week, but a lot of my colleagues that were at that press conference came away so impressed with how an 18-year-old spoke and carried himself and summed up, I think, what a lot of the Rangers fans have been thinking about what it means or should mean to be a Rangers player, what it should mean to be a Rangers team. He's an impressive young guy, and if he does go, and I think all signs are he will be going back to Spurs, he'll be a big loss.
Massive loss. Again, a huge. I did hear his interview, and I thought, as you mentioned, he was so impressive within that, and that's what you want to hear as a Rangers fan. players speaking like that and understanding the club. And again, he's only been here for a short period, but he absolutely gets it. He gets the opportunity that he's been given here at Rangers. And yeah, listen, there's no taking away from it. He is going to be a massive loss for Rangers and a really tough one to replace, because he's been outstanding since he came in. I think it took him a little bit of time to find his feet. He didn't really find his feet under Russell Martin, but then as soon as the new manager came in, he seemed to thrive on that, and whether he was allowed a little bit more freedom within his game, and he definitely, by far, for me, Rangers' top performer this season. So consistent, so exciting to watch. And it's been a problematic position for Rangers, them wide areas, because again, they've chopped and changed. They've looked at guys out there. You've got Gassama, you've got Bajrami, you've got Skovolson. None of them have stepped up to the plate apart from Mikey Moore. So he's carried the team on a number of occasions. So he's going to be a huge miss.
Well, amidst the title going by the wayside in the closing weeks of the season, John, the fact that Rangers missed out in Champions League football for next season was almost kind of forgotten about, but now people are starting to look at the situation and think that was a big cash avenue that was sort of closed off to Rangers. And then, of course, when your rivals at the top of the league are potentially getting access to that, it doesn't help the situation. How big a blow do you think that is for what the 49ers group are hoping to do with Rangers?
I think it'll be in the recruitment. I think if you Rangers had Champions League football with guaranteed entry into the group stage, every player that you had at the top of your list, you can seriously talk to now. And there's not a lot of convincing. There's 8 Champions League games to come here and play, 50,000 sellout crowds, TVs, a chance for you to advertise yourself as well as being a Rangers player. And those types of players you were probably going to go for were the types of players that could probably win you a title in 1 year, because the quality of money you were going to be able to spend. Celtic and Hearts are now going to be able to go and attract those players. And Hearts have proven this season, Brighton have proven over 10 seasons, Union Saint-Gilloise over the last 6, that they don't need to spend a full 30 million budget to get a squad that can win titles. They can go spend 15 million and do it. So if they reinvest their Champions League money, Rangers are going to be shopping in a market that potentially could be Conference League, which isn't going to attract too many players. Europa League might help a little bit. There'll be more money, but still it's nowhere near the funds that Champions League. And rightly or wrongly, you don't get the best players to Scotland unless you can give them 8 games in the Champions League. You just don't. So it's going to impact not only the money we can spend, but also the types of players that would want to come here for a year.
Yeah, it's such a big summer for Rangers and Andrew Kavanagh and the 49ers group. I think a lot of us have been impressed, Cammy, Andrew Kavanagh's willingness to come out and speak to the media and through the media speak to the fans. And it's not every club you get that. He's fronted that up really well, but he does need to get this summer right, doesn't he? The Russell Martin experiment, as we discussed, was a real disaster in terms of results on the pitch. The title race, they took it to the latter weeks, but then fell away. What do you think the sense is amongst the Rangers fans of Andrew Kavanagh and the 49ers group in terms of their credit in the bank, I suppose, and in terms of how big a summer this is for getting this right?
Listen, firstly, I think Andrew Kavanagh, he carries his soul really well. He speaks really well. His engagement with the media, his engagement with Rangers fans has been excellent. So I think the fans have welcomed him into the club. And for me, he gets the club. He absolutely does, because he had to make a really tough decision early on in his Rangers tenure that he had to sack a man that he's employed pretty quickly and admit that he got it wrong. And that's difficult to do. So I think he absolutely gets it. I just believe that they need to get the recruitment right this summer. It's a massive summer for them. But the way he goes about his business, I like how engaging he is with the Rangers fans, how in touch he is with the Rangers fans as well. I think it's really important for all fans to have that relationship with an owner of a football club, and he's got that. He just needs to get it right on the pitch now, because if he can get it right on the pitch, then you'll see how much the fans will buy into everything that he wants to do for the club. With regards to how much credit he's got in the bank, I think it's slowly dwindling away, but I still think he's got a bit. I think the fans are on side, but this summer is going to be so big for him and the club, because they need to get it right, because we've all seen how the season ended there. Again, the manager coming out and saying he's got 5 cup finals to get through. the first 4, you lose them 4 games is disastrous. So you're under pressure the next season. No matter what you do in the summer, you've got to start the season well as a football manager. So it's a big summer for the club.
Do you get that sense, John, that the Rangers fans, or most of them anyway, are still get confidence in this project? I mean, it's very early days, and if we discussed already, that doesn't make a difference. At Rangers, you want success immediately, but do you get the sense that the Rangers fans still have confidence in what Andrew Kavanagh and his group are looking to do at the club?
Yeah, I think on the Andrew Kavanagh point, I think everyone really likes him. I think the transparency and the openness, if I listen to friends that are Man United fans, and the Glazers have been there for however many years, and you never hear a peep from them, season ticket prices going up, never know what's happening with managers or the club or what the build is. Rangers don't have that. Andrew Kavanagh has been willing to come here, do full media, speak to Rangers TV, do the full interviews, go and approach fans and actually talk to fans, whether they've been in hotels at European games, whether they were over at the crowd at half-time at Falkirk in the last game of the season. That helps. It definitely helps that you're able to be fronted and show yourself and then address the fact. And I actually liked the thing he said about Danny Rohl, was that you can't always just blame the manager. We need to take accountability as the ownership group. We're the ones that made a rear end of the employment that the people we put in charge at the start of the season. We did that wrong. We had to front that up. That's on us. We can't always point the finger down. We have to take accountability, which is good, because you're always torn in two minds of going, I've seen this show before. Once Rangers fans turn on a manager, it's almost impossible. I think Alex McLeish is probably the only one that I've ever seen turn it round during a season. However, it is also respectful. I think that's why he probably took so long to get rid of Farewell Stewart and Russell Martin, was because he didn't want to seem like he was somebody that just pulls the trigger right away.
Yeah. Because
you can't build an organisation by being that reactive. You need to at least give people some amount of time to see what happens. And I think whatever change he's seen in Russell Martin, he didn't like and went, that's it, done. Danny Rohl, in a bad period, obviously hasn't given off that vibe to him. He's obviously a very good reader of characters. Danny Rohl obviously hasn't given off a vibe that he thinks I need to get rid of him. So I think he's got credit in the bank. I think people like him, and I think people will back this decision to keep Danny Rohl.
But what do you think, Cammy? Because I covered the Rangers Hibs game last week, and of course when that last minute goal goes in for Hibs, the Rangers fans' reaction was not great, and it just kind of rounded off a miserable post-split run that saw them fall out the title race. But I've seen a lot of Rangers fans saying, I hate to go down this rinse and repeat route, as you said, John, but I don't think Danny Rohl's got it. I don't think he's the man. They're kind of conflicted. What's your sense amongst the Rangers fans on Danny Rohl? Do you think they're willing to give him a bit of a chance? And if so, I suppose he needs to make a pretty good start next season just to quieten any noise around him.
Yeah, I think it's a split decision. There's a lot of fans who want rid of him just now, and again, what you say, Andy, is fans are saying, look, you can't just keep sacking managers. We've got to have some consistency, but Danny Rohl's not the right man for the job. So, I think you've got to believe, the ownership have got to fully believe this summer. It's so important that they believe he is the man for the job, and they see what his visions are going forward. They back him in the way that he needs to be backed to be successful, and give him every opportunity, because I do think it's really important the manager starts the season well. For me, this season, the way the season ended, the way that he had the conversations with the media and said, look, this is 5 cup finals, which it absolutely was, but failed so quickly in them 5 cup finals. I think he needs to start the season so well, get the Rangers fans back on side. Obviously, every fan that goes to the game in the first game of the season will be behind the team, will be behind the manager, but that can soon flip if they don't get results. So it's all about results for Rangers. We've known that for years. If he can get a good start to the season, I think he can win the fans back over, no problem.
I think he could have been doing without this whole James Tavernier episode, John, when I interviewed him pre and post match last week on the night that James Tavernier was left out the squad, and then we get told he wouldn't be at the stadium for his presentation, and then he appears kind of WWE style out of nowhere to get his trophy from John Gregg. It was a bizarre evening, and it was a bizarre episode. What do you think, or how do you think that Danny Rohl kind of handled that whole? There's obviously been claim and counterclaim as to how the team selection came about, but how do you think the manager dealt with that whole episode?
Danny Rohl's the first Rangers manager that's younger than me. So Danny Rohl to me is a wee guy. So Danny Rohl will make mistakes in this job. He's still learning. He's only been a manager less than 3 years. He will learn. He'll make mistakes. I think he made a massive mistake. I think James Tavernier made a massive mistake. I think they're both culpable. I think reading between the lines of what Andrew Kavanagh said and not what Danny Rohl said, and then that situation combined about leaders needing to buy him experience, I think there's been an issue at Rangers that nobody's been willing to come out and say that the leadership group's not good enough. I have never been in a professional football club at the size of Rangers, so I don't know what a good leadership group looks like. Danny Rohl, however, was part of a coaching staff at Bayern Munich that won 6 trophies in a year. Danny Rohl probably knows what a good leadership group looks like and what good professionals look like. And judging by Andrew Kavanagh's comments in the James Tavernier situation, I reckon Danny Rohl's called out that this club has no leaders in it and it needs a full revamp and a full group. And if Andrew Kavanagh backs him, that's what needs to change. I think James Tavernier's situation was the start of that, was Danny Rohl sending a message to the people that are still going to be here that this needs to run differently. This needs to change. We're going to have a whole new outlook next year, whole new leadership group. All the deadwood, I think he said it's going to be a big cut. The deadwood's all gone. So I think there is Rangers have a specific culture, but if there's no leaders in there, nothing's going to work. People are just going to turn their hand and wait for the manager to be sacked. I think that's what Danny Rohl must be calling out, and I think James Tavernier is I love James Tavernier, but I think he's the legacy of a Rangers fan base that thinks there's weak leaders in that changing room, weak mentality, and it needs to all change. And I think it's all just came to this one big summer that's going to need to be the whole change for the whole club.
So what does that look like then, Cammy? I think Andrew Kavanagh mentioned maybe prioritising some more Scottish players, a Scottish spine in the team. Of course, the great Rangers teams of the past have all, or certainly mostly, had a good, strong Scottish spine with some talented players from across the continent sprinkled around that. Do you see that as the way to go this summer, to get some more players that, inverted commas, get it in terms of what it means to play for Rangers?
Yeah, listen, I've always said that I like a Scottish spine to a team if they're good enough, and they've got to be good enough. Again, listen, I think there's been a little bit of snobbery around signing Scottish players over the past sort of 10 years. Again, when back in my era when I was playing, Rangers and Celtic would swoop up all the best players from all the other teams around them in the leagues. It's not happened that much over the past period. So I fully believe that, yes, Rangers need Scottish players in there. They need to be good enough to play for Rangers. They need to be able to handle that situation as well. And listen, you go back to the leader comment. I think when you look at and analyse leaders can be different. They can lead in different ways within a football club. Leaders are judged on winning at Rangers. So if Rangers were winning trophies, James Tavernier would have been hailed as a brilliant leader. They weren't winning trophies. I don't think that's all falls on James Tavernier over the past period that he's been at the club. So whoever comes in as the next captain and the next leadership group, they've got a big job to do, because they have to change the culture at the club, because they've not won enough trophies in the recent years passed by. So they've got a big job to do. It'll be interesting to see who he does name as the new captain, whether it's somebody within the building or somebody that's new. But they've got a big job.
Well, John, for next season, what's your gut telling you? A, is Danny Rohl a man that can deliver a Premiership title? And B, do you think Rangers are capable of finishing top of the pile next season, when you consider you've got to think Celtic will be better next season than they have been, and yet they've still managed to get themselves over the line for a title? We're hearing a lot about how this is just year one of the Hearts project. People are saying they are going to be stronger again next season. The levels of Rangers rivals could be elevated next season. Do you think Rangers are going to be able to A, stick with them, and B, beat them to the title next season?
I think Rangers can. Rangers can with good recruitment, but I think they probably have to get like a 90% hit rate with the players they bring in. You're right, though. I don't think we're ever going to have a chance to have had a weaker Celtic and a more naive Hearts. I don't mean naive in the way that I'm meaning it, but Hearts are going to be more experienced. They're going to have players who now know how far a title race is going to be, how energy sapping it is, the types of injuries you're going to pick up along the way. With a bigger squad, Hearts would have covered those injuries and wouldn't have had that blip mid-season. They've now addressed a lot of those areas. So we're never going to catch Celtic weaker than they were this year. Hearts are going to be stronger and more professional in what they need to do with a bigger squad. And Rangers are going to need to get all the recruitment right. So how are you going to get free? It's going to need to be a perfect season. My worry also is Aberdeen are going to be stronger. Hibs could be stronger again. Motherwell could, if they keep the manager. The league, I know we talked about the low points tally. I think the points could go down again.
It could be an 8-way title race next season. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, well, let's hope. It should be very interesting to see how Rangers go on in the summer. Guys, that's all we've got time for. Thanks very much for your company, and thanks to you for listening. Remember, we're here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every day, so make sure you don't miss out. Subscribe on BBC Sounds and have push notifications turned on your phone. But for now, from Cammy, from John, and from me, thanks for listening.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.